In this video, I'll be talking about the best and the worst weapons for Season 13. The weapon meta has definitely changed up this season due to many balancing changes and some changes to the care package weapons. So I'll start off with the worst weapons in D tier and move all the way up to the best in S tier. I'll also let you in on some of my sleeper picks. These are weapons that I believe are super strong, but aren't currently well known in the meta, at least not yet. So let's get into it. Starting on D tier is the P2020. This light ammo pistol is only decent if you get it off drop and your opponent has no gun. Anything beyond that, you're probably going to lose. Unless you equip the hammer points. And yes, of course, if you have a P2020 with hammer points, it's better than the base gun. It would probably move up to a C or B tier, but nothing higher. There's a reason why you don't see everyone trying to run this as a secondary. It's what I call a contingency. If you have the gun but no hammer point, it's a liability, and if you have the hop up but no gun, it's the same thing. These factors have to be considered when ranking weapons in Apex. Next is the 3030. This gun is not great, and I have several issues with this one, but the biggest is its bullet drop. Sure, it's satisfying to use, but when the scout comes out of the care package, this gun will be even more irrelevant unless they buff it. See, at the end of the day, it's a marksman rifle, so it should be pretty effective at medium to long range. Except I don't think it's that great. On top of that, if you have the hop up shatter caps or hip firing this gun up close, it feels even more inconsistent because of its damage output. It essentially turns into a low tier shotgun, but like, why would you want to run this over a normal shotgun? I'm really not sure, but ever since it came out in Season 8, it struggled to reach the weapon meta. Moving up to C tier. First is the EVA 8. Now this is absolutely the worst shotgun this season, and it's pretty annoying because Apex buffed it back in Season 8 to where it was way too overpowered, and then they spent the following few seasons slowly nerfing it, and now it's just frankly bad. And they tend to do this with weapons sometimes, and I just wish they wouldn't. It has a very inconsistent damage per shot now, and it's the least effective at any range beyond just barrel stuffing your opponent. Second in C tier is the L-Star. This gun also experienced what happened to the EVA 8 because back in Season 10, they buffed it significantly, and then it was shortly followed up by nerfs in Season 11 and nerfed once again at the beginning of this season. Now this gun isn't trash, but it's not really ideal either. The gun is still fairly effective up close, but anything beyond that, it becomes severely outclassed. It also feels like it needs a barrel stabilizer these days because the recoil is getting to be pretty crazy again. Third in C tier is going to be the RE45. Now this automatic pistol is ultimately like a mini R99. The recoil is much more manageable than the R99 for most players, and the damage output should still be respected. However, I think while a lot of newer players love this gun, as they progress through Apex, they quickly realize there are better options. Off drop, finding an RE is often pretty good, but it's not generally a gun you want to keep beyond that, unless you find and equip hammer points to it. But a main reason why you don't see everybody running with the RE and hammer points is because as good as it is, it's still not great. It's important to remember that hammer points only amplify damage on unshielded opponents, and this is a variable that must be considered when ranking all of the weapons. Fourth in C tier is the Rampage. Now with the return of the Spitfire as well as its rotation into the Crafter, the Rampage has clearly taken a back seat in Season 13. Is this gun still annoying to fight against? Absolutely. But it's pretty wonky, and I know a lot of players tend to struggle with its recoil pattern, whether it's up close hip firing or at mid to long range capacity. We also have to keep in mind this season the nerfs to LMGs all around. Therefore, I think it brings this gun down a notch. I do quickly have to mention as I'm going through every weapon and ranking them that Apex has done a pretty good job these past few seasons making all of the weapons somewhat viable. There isn't a single weapon that is absolutely trash. It's just more like some weapons are only good in specific situations or with specific attachments, whereas other weapons can be much more well-rounded. And that is important as you go about wondering which guns to be using this season. Moving on to B tier. These weapons are good, but not amazing. They're right in the middle. First is going to be the Bocek bow. This is the most unique weapon in Apex by far, and although it is far from a meta weapon, its damage output is nothing to scoff at. Some major pros to the Bocek are, it's very quiet. The ammo is recyclable. The time to kill is very fast, especially headshots. And you can choose to shoot it faster at the expense of doing less damage per shot. It has the same mechanic as the 3030, and this weapon also has very minimal drop-off, as a true marksman weapon should have. A severe downside, however, is it's the only weapon that runs its ammo type, so maintaining enough arrows throughout a match can prove to be difficult. Next in B tier is the Sentinel. This bolt-action sniper rifle is truly a difficult weapon to master, but remains to be one of the most satisfying guns to be proficient with. The ability to charge your shots with shield cells makes this sniper as close to a Kraber without actually finding one. The two downsides I found with this weapon are the low mag capacity and the long duration in between each shot due to it being a bolt action rifle. Third is the Triple Take. This energy marksman rifle is well past its prime in Season 13. When this weapon first returned out of the care package in Season 11, it was very strong. But since then, however, it's had a series of small nerfs, ranging from increased ammo consumption, decreased damage per shot, and an increased fall off at range. I still think this weapon can be viable if you're forced to use it as a mid to long range weapon. However, I think there's better options to choose from in the upcoming tiers. Fourth in B tier is the Devotion. Now don't get me wrong, a fully kitted Devotion is one of the scariest guns to go up against in all of Apex Legends. However, a gun that requires multiple attachments and a legendary hop-up makes it so that this gun only becomes well-rounded if you're able to find all of those things, as well as have a lot of ammo for it. Of course, if this gun is fully kitted and you have an opponent within 20 to 30 meters, the Devotion is certainly top tier. But as I stated before, some of the LMGs don't feel as strong as previous seasons due to their several small nerfs that they recently received. Fifth is the Hemlock. The 3-round burst heavy assault rifle is the weakest of its class. Can you get kills with it? Of course. But is it the gun I'm going to look for off drop and roll with all game? Absolutely not. For the people who like to use this gun in its single fire format, I think if you learn the burst recoil, you'll find out that this gun becomes 10 times better. Sixth in B tier is the Prowler. This 5-round burst submachine gun is definitely the weakest SMG that we have to choose from. Once again, this gun has gone through the ringer and has experienced numerous buffs and nerfs over the course of the last several seasons. As it stands now, I find this gun to be incredibly inconsistent with its damage. Sometimes it will hit for 11, which means 1 bullet out of the 5 connected, and other times you'll burst for 55. If you're going to use this gun solely up close in those hipfire situations, I would just rather have a shotgun. Okay, last in B tier is the Mozambique. This shotgun pistol is incredibly slept on, with or without hammer points. The damage per shot is consistent. It's effective at ranges where other shotguns feel obsolete, and it has the fastest fire rate for a shotgun. A true rags to riches story if I've ever seen one. This gun was once a meme, and now I think it's right in the middle of the weapon pool. But I do have to say, if you find and equip hammer points on this, it buffs the Mozambique to either A or S tier. Okay, now we're getting into some of the best weapons, A tier. First is the Peacekeeper. Now with the Mastiff going into the care package, the Peacekeeper feels like the best option when it comes to ground loot shotguns this season. They also increased the limb damage for the PK and the Mozam this season, and I have found that this makes the PK hit for a lot more, even when you aren't hitting center mass on your opponent. I'm a little disappointed that it finally felt like all the shotguns were well balanced, and then they go and switch it up. Shotguns have always been a tough class to balance throughout Apex's lifespan, and in the past, one shotgun usually was the better choice over the rest of them. Well, once again, we're back to that state. Next is the Havoc. Now this is one of my sleeper picks for Season 13. Lots of people still don't understand how good this weapon is, with or without the turbocharger. See, if you didn't know, they buffed the recoil pattern slightly this season, and this minimal change made the Havoc much easier to control at those mid-range distances, making it a laser beam. The time to kill on this weapon is also a slept-on factor. This is a very healthy change for the loot pool because it brings another viable assault rifle option to the table. There's one thing I know, when an energy weapon is good, it's really good. Okay, third is the Longbow. The re-emergence out of the crafter and onto floor loot has once again made this gun one of the best and most dominant sniper rifles in all of Apex. Due to its fast fire rate and high damage output, this gun is extremely impressive. I also think this gun can flex for those flashy no-scopes up close if you need it to. The headshot multiplier on the Longbow is disgustingly powerful. Alright, fourth is the Charge Rifle, and the Charge Rifle is one of the most annoying guns to go against, while simultaneously being one of the most fun weapons to grief opposing teams with. This is the only hit scan weapon in the game, making it stand out for both beginners and pros alike. It can serve as a very easy way to level up your Evo armor at safe distances, and honestly, the only downside to this gun is the high ammo consumption and the extremely long reload time. Who here watching this remembers what the Charge Rifle was like in Season 3 upon its release? Man, that thing was crazy. Fifth is the R99. While it's not as strong as it used to be, it's still a staple pick in the weapon pool. New players don't love this gun at first because of how fast it shoots, and the recoil does feel strong. But once players get used to it, it feels really good to get kills with. Its problem is its DPS compared to the car. It's kind of lackluster, so I would love to see a slight buff to the R99 here soon. Okay, next is another sleeper pick, the Alternator. This underrated SMG is very simple. It's a double barrel SMG with a slow fire rate, and it has an easy recoil to control. It's kind of crazy how strong this gun can be up close, so don't sleep on the Alternator in Season 13. My last pick in A tier is the G7 Scout. Now, I know this gun is in the care package, and yes, it's very strong, but it feels totally out of place being a care package weapon. I often see my teammates leave this gun on the package because they rarely want it, and I think that is very telling, as all care package weapons should be grabbed immediately. I don't think this gun had any business ever going into the care package, and I hope it gets swapped out at the beginning of next season. Alright, now we're at the best of the best, S tier. First is the Wingman. This pistol remains a clear-cut winner for one of the best weapons on floor loot, and we saw no recent changes to the Wingman specifically. However, we did see some changes to the helmets, which does affect the headshot multiplier, but this change hasn't made the Wingman any less of an option. Now, new players struggle with this gun at first because it is a hard gun to use in most cases, but once you get good with it, it's extremely oppressive and hard to combat if you don't have a Wingman yourself. Pistols have the fastest strafe speed when you ADS with them, making those sweaty Wraith mains extra hard to hit. Second is the R301. This is the most well-rounded gun in all of Apex Legends. Despite the bad decision to put it into the crafter this season, it still remains an S tier pick. I find this gun to be favorable in the hands of every skill level in this game, and this gun's recoil, along with its flexibility in close, mid, and long-range engagements, makes it incredibly dominant in nearly all situations. Now, I'm going to combine the Kraber, the Volt, and the Mastiff all into one summary here, as they all are extremely overpowered care package weapons. They have buffed them all significantly before going into the care package, and although we saw some subtle nerfs to the Kraber this season, it's still obviously S tier. None of these weapons should ever be left behind if you see one laying around. Fourth is the Spitfire. The Spitfire is back with a vengeance. Despite the fact that they removed the barrel stabilizer and made some minor nerfs to this gun, it honestly didn't change much at all, and this gun has returned to its former glory as the most annoying and overpowered gun in all of Apex. The backlash from the community once again has already sparked discussions with the devs around more potential nerfs. If you run into a full 3-man team using Spitfires, run, because that's all you can really do. Fifth is the Flatline. The Flatline is one of the few guns that actually has the potential to overtake a Spitfire. The only thing it lacks in comparison is the smaller mag size on it, but this gun has made its return to floor loot this season and is easily the most prominent pick in the game. The gun is like the AK-47 of Apex Legends, and if you can learn to master this weapon and remember to hip fire it in those up close fights, you will truly take your game to the next level this season. Okay, last on the list is the Car. This is another sleeper pick, though people are finally waking up to just how good this gun is. Ultimately, this gun's bread and butter is up close and personal. The one-clip potential is faster than any other gun in the game. And I know at first, this gun's recoil is going to feel really uncomfortable, especially for newer players. However, if you put the time in learning the recoil pattern and what it feels like beyond that hipfire range, you will truly see why this gun is S tier. Personally, I think it does deserve a slight nerf, because if you haven't realized how quick you're dying to this weapon, well, you will pretty soon here after watching this video. Okay, so now you know what the best guns are, but now you need to know who the best legends are in Season 13. I covered everything in this video here. Thanks for watching. Peace.